So let's bow in. Welcome, everyone, to the Buddhist path of awakening. We're working our way through the profound treasury of the ocean of Dharma, which is the 3-volume set of compiled talks, digested from about 15 years of seminary. Every year, Trungpa Rinpoche took from about 150 to 250 students off for 3 months of study and practice. And those 3 months were divided first month into the Hinayana teachings, the second month into the Mahayana, and the third month into the Vajrayana. And during those times, students taught courses, but every night Trungpa Rinpoche taught. And these talks have been digested into these 3 volumes. We are on volume 3, the Vajrayana. And tonight, Michael and I will be talking about chapter 6, 7 aspects of Vajrayana, the space before first thought. So this is the space of awareness. The awareness which is with us all the time and which is punctuated or contains thoughts that come and go. And when they go, there's just this space of awareness. And then a thought comes up and appears like a cloud across the sky, not completely blocking the sky. Can't do that. Clouds can't do that. The sky is always there. Thank you. And so this is the space before first thought. And he starts out by talking about Nagarjuna, or Nagarjuna, however we like to pronounce it. Nagarjuna lived around in the 2nd century AD, and he was a great Buddhist, often called the second Buddha. He founded the Madhyamaka school, the middle way school of Buddhist philosophy or thought, which was really about shunyata, emptiness. The arguments for the non-existence of I and other, that these are just errors, and that they are the fundamental errors which bind us into confusion, that we spend our lives constantly trying to protect this I by manipulating its relationship with other, because we believe in their existence when in fact they're just fictions, creations, mental creations. And so Nagarjuna was a great power holder. He and a great tantric practitioner as well. There are different versions of his life. It's really interesting. In one version of his life, he lived a relatively normal lifespan. And in another version, he lived 900 years and had many, many adventures and taught Tantra in the second version. So you can pick your version that you like or take both. And he said that the Vajrayana can be understood in 7 aspects, all based on the idea of space before first thought. That is what we've been talking about, this fundamental awareness, call it Rikpa, Vidya in Sanskrit, Rikpa in Tibetan. It's this open awareness that is the very core, the foundation. It's more than that. It is the very essence of our being, who we are. And our thoughts come and go within the space of this ongoing awareness. And not only our thoughts, but all of our perceptions of sight, sounds, smells, tastes, tactile sensations, the 5 senses, as well as mental events, all occurring in this space of this awareness which never stops. In fact, one of the meanings of Tantra is continuity. That's what one of the meanings Tantra has. And what it's referring to is the continuity of this ongoing awareness, which never ends, not even in death. And that's another subject altogether. So in this space of cognitive awareness, secondary cognitive mind takes place from time to time and is often absent. So what he's saying is that really awareness practice or meditation practice is based on this first cognitive mind, which is actually, he calls it no mind. Why? Why is it no mind? Because there are no thoughts in it. It's not thinking. It's not going back and forth between I and other. It's just simply brilliantly awake and aware of whatever happens to be arising in the moment. And he says that this no mind has not formed into a mind yet. When he talks about mind in this chapter, he's talking about little mind, the mind that thinks, what in the Zen tradition they call little mind. And also this puts tremendous emphasis as well, not only on the lack of I and other, but nonetheless, within this space arise and pass away constant appearances, these words, this flesh, all the five senses, as well as mental events. These are what are called the relative truth. The absolute truth is that none of this has any true being. None of this exists in any solid way. It's just a constant, a vision coming and going, like the images on your computer screen. Just as this hand gesture moves across the computer screen, all of the phenomenal world is like that. And yet, the phenomenal world is so important. It's so beautiful. It's so vivid. It's so meaningful. And so we begin to get a more vivid and meaningful and powerful experience of phenomena, the six kinds: sight, sounds, smells, tastes, bodily sensations, and mental. And he says the Vajrayana goes beyond emptiness of I and other to encompass great joy, which in Sanskrit is called mahasukha. Maha means great, sukha means joy. In Tibetan, it's dewa chen. And what this means that the phenomenal world is somewhat more cheerful than in the pure shunyata approach. And what makes it more cheerful, what makes this great joy happen, is our growing appreciation of the beauty, vividness, and meaningfulness of all the different kinds of phenomena that arise and pass away in the moment. There's a tremendous kind of joy and pleasure in the phenomena. It's art. Then he says dance exists because all that's left to do for the practitioner is to dance with this phenomenal display, to make love to it, to dance with it, to communicate with it, to play with it. Play becomes a big word in the Vajrayana. Michael, do you have anything you want to contribute at this point before we go into the aspects?
I would just say that those opening sentences where he says the space before thought or perception that does not allow the secondary cognitive mind to take place, that's worth a lot of contemplation, and to actually look at what in our experience resonates with that.
Can you say a little more?
I think it's just that we sometimes have that experience of what he's calling first mind or first cognitive mind, which is actually no mind, that we have glimpses and flashes of that. And that the more we come to recognize and appreciate that, the easier it is to recognize again, because we just become familiar with it. And that, and which is why meditation practice is so important.
Yeah, well said. It's so important. What can you say? It's the ultimate importance.
Yeah.
It's the foundation of reality.
Yeah.
So the first aspect of these 7 aspects of the Vajrayana, it says marked with Samantabhadra. Now, Samantabhadra is a primordial Buddha. His name literally means all good. In Tibetan, it's Kuntu Zangpo. Kuntu means all, everything, and Zangpo means goodness. And that's what he represents. The all goodness of this real world, this world beyond or before thought. He says it means that there is a quality of totality and basic goodness, that this world is fundamentally wholesome, worth being here for, beautiful, worthy of enlightened mind. And he says, since all dharmas, meaning phenomena are sights, sounds, smells, tastes, tactile sensations, and thoughts, since all dharmas are included in the Dharmakaya is the Dharma body of the Buddha, which is absolute reality, emptiness of I and other, and all of the phenomena are included in that. Therefore, we find that the whole of phenomena is no longer subject to discussion about whether it is for us or against us. This isn't a game of for and against. This is a matter of the constant arising and passing away of this gorgeous display that we can appreciate and participate in, dance in. And so we develop an understanding of the phenomenal world based on the union of emptiness and bliss. The bliss is the constant appreciation of this open awareness in which the beauty of the world demonstrates itself. In everything we do, genuine communication is taking place based on emptiness and brilliance, joy. It's an embryonic celebration taking place all the time in whatever we do in our life. Michael, I think I'm just going to pause it after each one of these sections and see if you have anything.
Well, I'll just say that the notion of being beyond for us or against us, in a lot of ways, this is why, as we've read in some of the other readings in this section, why the Hinayana and Mahayana foundations are so important, so that we have, first of all, some discipline, but also, secondly, with the Mahayana, so we develop a positive, sympathetic attitude toward the world and begin to let go. Without that, we can't appreciate things, because if we're looking at everything, whether it's for or against us, there's just constant struggle.
Yeah. This is all about a world beyond that struggle of for and against, completely beyond it. So the second aspect is possessing adhisthana, which is Sanskrit for blessings. And the Sanskrit for that is chinlap. It possesses great blessings, great adhisthana. This isn't blessings in any Christian or Judaic sense of somebody giving you a blessing. He says it's more that you're overwhelmed and swallowed up in this gorgeous display of openness and color and phenomena. It also connotes producing heat, this blessing. And the heat might melt you on the spot. The heat is the beauty of the phenomenal display. It's actually warm, has heat in it. You are so overwhelmed and engulfed by blessings that you have no choice. You're swallowed up by the heavy atmosphere, and it is very full, very proper, very good. And that the Hinayana, as Michael said, the Hinayana and Mahayana training from your previous training makes this possible. And the dignity of the practitioner, the dignity means the self-assurance, the confidence of the practitioner, the person at this stage of the path, possesses dignity and basic goodness. And then he contrasts it with the Hinayana and the Mahayana adhisthana, blessing.
So, excuse me, John, something is brushing up against your mic. It's very loud.
Sorry, my papers. having a little hardware problems here. Thank you for telling me. So in the Hinayana, blessing, adhisthana, is reverence for the saneness of the teacher, the elder who teaches you, and a feeling of awkwardness in yourself. In the Mahayana, there's a quality, he says, of big-hearted goodness, compassion, and heroism, but there's still no magic. In the Vajrayana, magic starts to happen. It was there in the earlier yanas, but very faint, by innuendo, he says. We regard the world as sacred, even more than theists do. The world is intrinsically good and sacred and celebratory and cheerful, a quality of splendidness or terrificness. There is tremendous splendor involved. And the magic comes in because of this extraordinary beauty and meaningfulness of the way phenomena arise in the moment. And you actually begin to, in the Vajrayana, experience a meaningfulness that's beyond logic, beyond reason, which really is beginning to take you into the realm of magic. Should I go on, Michael? Or...
I have nothing to say. I think that says it all.
Okay. Acquiring siddhis is the third aspect. Siddhis, nudup in Tibetan. And it's funny, I never really knew the Tibetan for it, and had a friend years ago named Nudup, a Tibetan fellow. He was Trungpa Rinpoche's favorite Thangka painter, Nudup Range. Never knew what his name meant. So it means actually accomplishing and refers to miracles, overwhelming blessings. We feel that we have accomplished something. And so we have possessed dignity and fearlessness, that we could command the four elements, although that comes later. Blessings is like rain, and nudup is like what grows in that rain. And what grows is this extraordinary phenomenal world which goes beyond reason. And this is produced by the union of your Vajra master, your teacher, and yourself. The Vajra master really begins to open your mind up to a new world, a world of the meaningfulness of all the phenomena that arises and passes away, and beauty and magic. And he says, you trust in the teachings which bind you and the teacher together. The deities, which are the sense of sacredness present, and the Vajrayana teachings and the Vajra master together are holding this whole thing, this magic, this magical glow of the Vajrayana. In Vajrayana initiation, an initiation can have a number of different meanings. It can be a ceremony, a formal ceremony. It can simply be the communication of insight from the teacher to the student, which can happen very gently. It can happen very suddenly, and not so gently. He says in the Vajrayana initiation, the Vajra master creates a complete Vajra world with the deity. The deity might be Vajrayogini or all kinds of people, Chakrasamvara, and waits for you to come in. When you do, you drink the purified water. You walk into the Vajra den, which is so powerful that you get blessings on the spot. Blessings means your mind is open. You begin to see the world as being sacred, fundamentally good. And this happens because you and the other students are open-minded, because the Vajra master is open and loving and has tremendous affection for the students, and because the deities, the so-called deities in the tantric teaching atmosphere, are flickering and ready for you to zap into. These deities represent the enlightened aspects of your mind and the teacher's mind. That's what they represent. So you just walk in and you get mildly and quite pleasantly zapped. That's the chinlop. And then you get further blessing during the initiation as well, if there is a formal initiation, and if the initiation can be informal, it can be something that just is a communication between the teacher and student or students. The atmosphere of blessing happens all the time in the Vajrayana. At the point when you are formally initiated into the Vajrayana, there is no practice involved. But in order to get to that level, you need a lot of practice. That's what allows you to open up. And to go on from there, you also need a lot of practice. I'm pausing.
Yeah, I'll just remind people of some of the material we read in Shambhala, The Sacred Path of the Warrior, about just the importance of environment and how environment can wake us up, and how when we're completely in sync with the environment, how that does give us a kind of power, influence, whatever we want to call it. Because I think it's very much consistent with what we're talking about here, with the importance of environment as a reflection of mind and how our mind can also affect the environment.
The fourth aspect is called ukjinpa, means confirmation. You begin to feel so uplifted by blessings and siddhis. Siddhis can literally be magical. I mean, great teachers have siddhis, powers to see the future. I always felt that Trungpa Rinpoche was reading my mind, and I'm sure Michael might as well. When I might have eaten a meal with him, I felt he was passing me the salt before I even knew I wanted it. Things like that. It was a little unnerving sometimes. And I think a lot of us began to feel slightly paranoid around him whenever we walked in, because he could see straight through us, which is a kind of siddhi. But
it's also how he could create an entire environment or mood in a room in teaching that really was palpable.
I agree completely. Yeah, magical. So he says you begin to feel so uplifted by blessings and siddhis, powers, blessings and miracles, that you begin to share the mentality and approach of the Tathagatas, those Buddhas who have gone beyond, the Sugatas, the Buddhas who have gone to bliss, the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. You begin to share their mentality. You begin to find that you are so uplifted that you've transformed yourself from an ordinary, lower-level person. In particular, you have freed yourself from the lower realms. Those are the hell realms, the hungry ghost realm where you feel impoverished, the animal realm of stupidity, and are about to become superhuman, or have already become. So there is no fear of primitivism, no fear of feeling like a worm or a cockroach or similar. Because you have experienced such strong blessings, you feel fully charged. Somebody, you have been confirmed. So this confirmation is breathing the breath of blessing. It's a kind of relief. You're not holding your breath in anticipation. Finally, you are confirmed in who and what you are, much as the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. I think this feeling of confirmation comes along naturally on the path at different stages, when you begin to feel that you actually are confident that you're understanding these teachings.
And I think just as the opening sentences where he talked about that space before thought, that come to realize over and over again that what's being pointed out to us.
And he says you can have good head and shoulders. That was a big expression. That means good upright posture. You can walk upright and straight with delight and joy. And he always urged us to have good head and shoulders. So the fifth aspect is that there are no obstacles. The whole world is being vajrified. It's being, you're stepping into this world of reality beyond hope and fear. beyond false beliefs. He says your body is no longer feeble and sickly. Even if it is, it's not. Your speech is no longer stuttering, half-hearted, and low-key. Your mind is no longer depressed or confused, but it is strong and cheerful. Cheerful was a huge theme. At this point, your whole being, your body, speech, and mind is vajrified at the level of awakened mind, bodhicitta. This is indestructible awakened mind, indestructible bodhicitta, because there are no cracks in your awareness or understanding of the Vajrayana. You really have tuned into this fundamental awareness that is always here. And even when you lapse off into dreams, you always come back. Your conviction and pride in the Vajrayana are diamond-like. So you're no longer subject to obstacles or hazards of any kind. This is a very advanced stage, I think.
Well, it's not my experience yet, but I think we have glimpses of it. We have moments.
Your bird agrees too.
They always agree. Again, the space before thought, one aspect of the Vajrayana is that in the Vajrayana, everything is seen as workable. That even in the chant that we do, where it says, we think in the beginning of our practice as thoughts as obstacles and thoughts as problems, which in one sense they are, because we buy into them. But when we come to recognize that space before mind, it's like what it says in the chant, the essence of thoughts is Dharmakaya. And when we come to recognize that, thoughts aren't an obstacle anymore.
Yeah, this whole thing of recognizing the basic goodness of oneself and the world is key to the Vajrayana. The sixth aspect is never violating samaya. Samaya is the oath. You take many samaya oaths during the course of your Vajrayana career, and they're oaths to behave properly in accord with the teachings, in accord with the practices that you're doing. And when you break samaya, it can be considered a serious violation with consequences. But what he's saying here is that you have begun to realize inward purity and spotlessness. See, this awareness that we have, that's always with us, is fundamentally pure and spotless. And the more that we recognize it, come back to it, affirm it, we live more and more in a world that is spotless and pure and wholesome. And you experience this wholesomeness. And you experience that you have nothing to fear. Wow. I can sort of see the possibility. But I was nervous before giving this talk. Had something to fear. Because this is such an exalted talk. No reason to regard things as bad. You feel clean and good. A general sense of goodness is taking place. You can never break your samaya vow. And he says, everything is fine, nothing to worry about. You realize that you and the Vajra Master and the Vajra world are indivisibly fastened together. So you feel you cannot violate samaya at all. You can, but then you can cure it, that violation. So the seventh aspect is always restoring samaya, even when it is violated. Even though you might have occasional doubts flickering in your thoughts because that cause you to break samaya, you can always restore it. How? It's because you've experienced the previous 6 qualities of the Vajrayana. So you have no problem relating with your world or your life. Even if you violated samaya, it can always be restored. It can be fixed. I mean, the classic samaya is that you receive teachings and the teacher you have to take an oath of secrecy. Why secrecy? Because other people who haven't been prepared properly are not ready to hear these teachings, and it can actually do them harm. That's one reason. Another reason is that if you give them away inappropriately, you violate their beauty and their meaningfulness. And so you take an oath of secrecy for particular teachings. And if you violate that oath and you give away the teachings, you're breaking samaya. Anything, Michael?
Just looking at the part where it says, the reason you break your Samaya vow is usually because you have doubts about yourself or your world. Either you feel that you are not good enough, or that the world isn't good enough, or that the bad situation is made out of both you and the world, or that the bad situation is made out of neither. Well, it goes into the four extremes of Nagarjuna. But that basically the violation of Samaya comes out of some kind of doubt. And that oftentimes, for instance, when people do violate secrecy, it's because they want to say something about themselves, and proclaim something in an ego-oriented way, and that's a violation of Samaya.
Right. In here, we get the four Madhyamaka extremes that Michael alluded to. This is Nagarjuna's contribution, and they go like this. That just to familiarize you with a little bit with it. So, for instance, Nagarjuna says that nothing truly exists. We think that things exist, but they don't. But actually, they don't exist. They don't not exist. They don't both exist and not exist. And they don't neither exist nor not exist. These are called the four impossibilities. That rules out every possible statement you can make. But here, he's talking about... what is he talking about here? That you're not good enough. Your world is not good enough. Both you and your world are bad. Or that badness is neither you nor your world. Throw them all out. Basically, what he's saying is that Nagarjuna is saying that you can't capture reality in words at all, period. So the conclusion of these 7 aspects of Vajrayana: trust, inspired by Maitri, which is self-love, so important, and Karuna, which is love of others. And that those two together produce tremendous confidence and trust in your being and in your world, and a quality of heroism, delight, and fearlessness. Wow. This is the Vajrayana world that we're being enjoined to come into. All 7 aspects put together make the Vajrayana workable. They do not apply only to advanced students, but to new students, amateurs as well. Therefore, the Vajrayana is very up to date. It is delightful to be in the Vajrayana world and to experience the Vajra world and Vajra being. There is tremendous strength and joy taking place. So that's the picture of where ultimately we're headed. Any more you have to say, Michael? Or should we throw it open to discussion?
In just a moment, but I actually wanted to throw something out. So this is the final chapter of this first section that was titled, the overall section, these first 6 chapters was titled Approaching the Vajrayana. Plus, before we started reading this, we read the section on Tantra in Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism, where he presented Vajrayana in terms of working with energies, which is another way of talking about the dance that he talks about, the Mahasukha experience and communication, which he also talks about. So I think it's a good place to, just pause for a moment and think about what we've come to understand so far in terms of what we think the Vajrayana might be about, or how it might touch what we might be able to touch in on in terms of our experience, as well as reflecting some on the Hinayana and Mahayana as well. And because in a lot of different places, he's talked about the Hinayana and Mahayana as a foundation, but then also talked about how the Vajrayana goes beyond that So there's, in just these first 6 chapters, there's quite a bit.
So we're open for discussion. I just want to mention something as well before people start to leave. And that is that there are quite a few people who've asked for bodhisattva vows and refuge vows. And so I'm going to schedule it. If you have a desire to take the vows, any of those vows, send me an email so that I know. And then I can inform you of what's happening. There'll need to be a conversation about that with you, and also a class based on probably just one reading each from these 2 books. These are books called the Bodhisattva Vow, a source book, and the Refuge Vow, a source book. And you can buy it. I can send it out as a PDF, the Trungpa Rinpoche's talk, and we will discuss it, the meaning of these vows. But you have to let me or Michael know if you wish to take them. A second point, oops, I've forgotten what it is. It'll come to me. Let's go on into discussion. Oh, the second point is, I wanted to ask people's opinion on whether or not we should have a hiatus until after the new year and skip the next 2 classes that are right after Christmas and New Year's, or whether we should just keep meeting. So any opinions would be welcome. And anything else, this material.
I'm available.
Yeah, I would be happy to
keep going.
Want to keep,
Keep going.
Yeah, I agree.
Continue.
Yes,
Continue.
we'll keep going. That's great.
onward.
Onward.
Can we go beyond the Vajrayana? Or is there anything beyond that?
Yeah, there is something beyond the Vajrayana.
Okay.
It's called Old Dog.
Old dog, right?
And it's like he says, it's you become just an old dog who lies around in the dust, flicking flies away with its tail.
Well, good thing with a big thick book for that.
Heard about Old Dog from anybody except from Rinpoche. You go to any other teacher and they don't know about Old Dog.
Something to aspire to.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I'm already there.
Yeah, really.
I was wondering about this deity business. How is it that we're talking about deities, but we're not theistic?
Because they don't exist separate from yourself. They're really aspects of this non-existent experience. They represent qualities of the world, the energies of the world, as well as qualities of enlightened mind, and sometimes qualities of unenlightened mind, when they're bad deities. And you will work with them in the Vajrayana. There are practices that you do with these deities, but what you're really doing is you are working with your own mind, your own enlightened mind, personified. Would you say, Michael?
Yeah, the idea that deity practice is it is one way of recognizing true nature of mind.
And you have to realize too that the word deity is just a translation of the Tibetan or the Sanskrit, and it's English, and so it has all of the connotations of the Western culture, which is basically theistic. And in the original languages like Tibetan or Sanskrit, those words are not gods, that one worships externally. So, for instance, one version of deity would be Yidam. Yidam is a tutelary deity that you work with, and you see this personified in a particular shape and form, but it represents an aspect of awakened mind. It might be peaceful, it might be wrathful. And you can actually see these too if you get it very advanced, because they project out through the channels in your eyes, and they appear as though they were external, although they're not. But that's a very advanced practice, and I'm just mentioning it. It's something we shouldn't even get into, I guess, at this point.
It helps.
Remember, deity is a Western word. Doesn't exist. I mean, when in the Tibetan or Indian tradition, when you talk about a word that actually means deity, for instance, it would be in Tibetan, it would be hla, or in Sanskrit, deva. And what this refers to in Buddhism, when you talk about hla or deva in Sanskrit, it refers to the beings who live in the sixth realm, the realm of the gods, above the realm of the jealous gods, above the human realm. They're still confused. They're just very, very happy because they've got everything they want, or they think they have got everything they want. That's sort of a definition of being a god in the Buddhist sense, is you think that you've arrived, you've got everything. You don't, and you're constantly checking on it. But and so they're not enlightened beings whatsoever. Well, there are enlightened spirits that one works with in Yidam practice, or what's sometimes called deity practice. It is often, but these are not gods. They represent enlightened aspects of mind, like Vajrayogini represents the feminine aspect of prajna, and it's fierce. Yamantaka represents skillful means, and boy, is he fierce. I just happen to like the fierce deities myself.
Shinyi has a question in chat. How to receive blessings from the guru/lineage? How does one know one is receiving blessings?
Good question.
Good question. I would say it all lies in communication. The more intimate and open, the more profound. This is really the fundamental quality that a student should be looking for in a relationship with a Vajra master, a Vajra teacher, is extraordinarily open communication. The Mahayana, it's deep friendship, and that is extended much further in the Vajrayana to extraordinary intimacy of mind, and that's where blessings lie. Michael, you have anything to add to that or modify?
Just that, if there is at any point something you read or something you hear that really seems to wake something up in you or clarify something for you in a real heartfelt way, I think that's the blessing.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, here we've got Sarah has her hand up, and then Danielle.
Me too, but let
Okay.
others go.
Okay, we'll get to you, Lane. Sarah?
Well, now I have two questions after Ginny's. If we're trying to get openness with our teacher, does that come about by talking about the teachings with each other?
It can. There are no rules.
But we're not supposed to be confessional?
There are no rules. It has to do with genuine, open, heartfelt communication and respect for each other and affection. Openness, I think, above all. And that can't be forced. It comes in, it's sort of deep friendship. This is at the Vajrayana level and the Mahayana too, I think.
Thank you. My second question was, are the teachings that were presented this evening supposed to be kept secret?
I'd say yes. Wouldn't you, Michael?
I think it's a question of how we relate to them. I mean, obviously this book is available publicly for anyone to buy who would be interested. I think it's more a matter of, as with, Buddhism as a religion doesn't proselytize because there's so much opportunity for ego and for a project and, for looking for some kind of ego confirmation. So I think it's more the spirit within which sharing is done that's really important.
Well said.
Thank you.
Working our way across, Danielle.
Hi.
Right.
So if I'm getting it right, when we were doing the Hinayana and the Mahayana, doubt was good, right? Having some doubt was good. And then for the Vajrayana, having doubt is not so good to have because you might break a Samaya vow by having doubts. So if I'm right, I don't know if I'm right, I'm asking, but so if you have doubt during the Vajrayana, you break a Samaya vow, but in the book, like he just drops a little doubt after like saying great stuff, and he's like, but you will die if you don't do this. So does that mean like you're not supposed to have any doubt during the Vajrayana teachings and practice?
I think you have to learn what it means to be without doubt.
I was exaggerating the dying part, so I didn't mean to be disrespectful of the teachings.
Especially in the beginning, we need to test the teachings. We don't go into this naively or with sort of hopeful that we're going to get something. The real doubtlessness comes through beginning to appreciate your own the enlightened aspect of your own mind. This fundamental awareness that he's talking about before thought. And that's where doubtlessness lies. But that doesn't mean that you don't question.
So maybe you will feel what you're talking about when you're there, and you'll know on the path when you're at that point.
I think so. Yeah. Doubt eventually, I think, disappears because you develop tremendous confidence in your own intelligence. And so you don't need to protect yourself. He said that people, when they first approach the path, it's very good to be cynical about any claims, that cynicism makes you a good Buddhist. Cynicism about any belief. Ultimately, though, cynicism can become a form of belief itself. And he said it's a knife that cuts itself. And you step into the world of pure awareness.
The doubtlessness comes from genuine experience, and that it's what we don't want to do is talk ourselves into experiencing something that we haven't had a genuine experience of. And in that sense, if we're doubt, it's actually still a positive thing because we're open, as opposed to closing our minds and thinking, trying to create an experience rather than allowing ourselves to just be open to experience.
Well said. Lane, did you have something?
Well, before I ask my question, I just had a thought that I thought I'd share regarding Danielle's question, which is simply that there's a difference between having doubt in different teachings and needing to verify them for oneself and having self-doubt. That's the kind of doubt we were talking about tonight. Well, we need to have this confidence. Regarding my own question, I found this this chapter really clear. There's just one subject that I'd like to hear a little bit more about. You said that there were other forms of samaya than vows of secrecy. Can you give some examples of other forms of samaya?
Obedience to the teacher, loyalty to the teacher, protecting the teacher. Also, obedience to the instructions, to what you've been told to do. These are Samaya. Michael, do you have any others?
There's an entire section of this text that covers Samaya.
Oh, that's right.
Section 5.
Section 5. Okay, I'll wait for that. Thanks.
Who have we got here? Mark, and then Vic.
Hi. Great chapter. It's a lot. It's thick, even though it's not so thick. I just had a quote that I came across that I found very interesting. It's not from a Buddhist. It's I'll tell you after I say it. There are only two ways to live your life. One is though nothing is a miracle. The other is though everything is a miracle. And that's Albert Einstein. And it's, I think, there's a change in mind through meditation and Buddhism. And a miracle I associate with magic, and I feel like I see so much of it. I have doubt from time to time, especially when I'm in my car acting like a jackass. But when I meditate, it's just so wonderful. I love the sun, it's really brightening up the tree trunks and the texture of things and everything here is, we see it all the time. So we don't get it because we've seen it. I like the term beginner's mind. I think it's so key to be able to look at things with fresh eyes. And I don't know what that is. I don't know how that works, but I feel I experience that. And it's very, very, it's wonderful. And it helps me on the path. And I think that primordial mind, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but there are gifts, real gifts that we have. Anyway, that's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicky.
Thank you. I was very mystified by the term heroism that keeps coming up. I'm not quite, it's always kind of, it was in the context of, joyful and cheerful and heroic. Hero is, who's the hero? What's the hero? It's like heroism to me smacks of ego. Oh, my hero, or I'm a hero, or I was just trying to get a little context on that term in there.
I think it's alluding to bravery, not giving in to self-doubt above all. That the ultimate form of bravery is self-confidence and ability, which gives you the ability to deal with whatever comes up without self-doubt. Michael, you have anything to add?
I was just thinking of times when somebody's done something heroic, like rescued somebody from a fire, or something like that, and people ask them afterward, they weren't thinking about being heroic, is what they'll say. What they said is, I was just doing what I had to do in the situation. That the idea of heroism, though, is that we're sometimes able to do that we're able to, like John said, be brave. So I think it's just talking about the quality of fearlessness, which doesn't mean we don't experience fear. There again, we talked about that was in the Shambhala text. The idea of fearlessness isn't that we don't experience fear, but that we're capable of going beyond that. And I think that's probably what it means. But maybe other people have other ideas.
Thank you. So it's sort of bravery in the face of your own self-doubt.
But also I think it has to do with affirming the beauty and the goodness of this world. That is where heroism lies, and what a hero is someone who does that.
And there's heroism in letting go.
Yeah. And the other question I had was back to Sarah's question about secrecy. Who would we be keeping this secret from if it's published, already public information? It's in the book. I guess I'm not sure I understand the whole secrecy concept.
I think with regard to this book, we're students, and to proclaim to people who aren't ready for it, who haven't prepared the way everybody here has, would be an act of egotism. And it would be inappropriate and harmful. You might tell them about this and they might dislike it, might think it's, a load of hooey, because they just simply haven't been prepared for it. So it can do harm. Yeah. There are a lot of teachings that are available publicly on at Amazon. Advanced teachings. I was thinking today, I was talking with someone about a person named Keith Dowman, who Michael might know of. He's a translator and has worked a lot with the Great Perfection teachings. And his work is available on Amazon, I think. But when people start to read that, if they do, number one, I don't think they're going to find it that interesting. And number two, they're going to understand it because if they haven't had enough background. It takes the background of the Hinayana and the Mahayana to really understand and appreciate the Vajrayana.
Right. I can't see anyone trying to read this monster volume without the kind of process we're doing. But there's going to be people who do. And I don't know how you can keep it secret. I mean, so I'm not supposed to, I wouldn't anyway, but I'm not supposed to tell someone who I want to kind of explain an insight or something I liked. I shouldn't tell them about this.
You could. I don't
It
think
seems like
you're not going to go to Vajra hell. You know.
no, I know, but it's so unlikely. I just don't see why almost there's no danger anyone stumbling into this, and then doing harm by, as you say, not being prepared and everything. It's I don't know.
Even this study is very introductory. And when you begin to become a Vajrayana practitioner, you might be working with a teacher who will be giving you very specific and advanced teachings, so-called advanced. They won't seem advanced at the time, but they're appropriate. And those teachings will be held secret, not to be shared, because you've been prepared and other people haven't. And so to give them out to people who are unprepared is harmful to them.
Okay, thank you.
I would, if I could just jump in, I would say that if you feel like you want to convey some of this, take a good look at your intention. And it should only happen if there's really, if there's real true communication going on and you're not operating out of some need to satisfy something in yourself.
Well said. Anyone else before we close for the evening? Mark, again? Yeah.
Hi, yeah, I just an experience I had throughout the years is that our minds change. Sometimes we're not ready to see things differently, and throughout the process of learning, I know that people are on different levels. They don't always, when I'm talking to them, they're not always. They kind of let you kind of lead yourself with what you're experiencing in the teachings. And it's because I wasn't ready. And it was more understandable when I was ready and was able to understand what was being taught. So it doesn't help telling people certain things when they're not ready for it. There's something with the teachings that it kind of brings you to that point that you start understanding when you're ready to take that step. I think that's it.
Thank you. Oops, a lot of chat.
I think the subject of skillful means also comes into play here. With skillful means, we know whether or not it's appropriate to tell someone and how to give the information.
Well,
yeah, that was certainly an element of what I was trying to convey.
So shall we end?
Okay.
And for some reason, my computer is not cooperating and I can't put the chants up. Anybody else? We're just doing the dedication of merit.
We know it.
just the dedication of merit? We all know it.
Okay.
Let's just do it.
Yep. So you want to mute everybody? Unmute yourself and lead us in the dedication of merit.
All right. So we will close by dedicating the merit earned by our practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. By this merit, are we unmuting everybody? Everybody's muted.
Yeah, no, we're not doing cacophony here. That's tomorrow.
Okay.
So just go ahead.
Sorry. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing, and I'm having a senior moment right now. I do need it up.
From the stormy waves, birth,
What?
old, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings.
By the confidence
Son of the
of the
great,
Son.
may the locust garden and the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.
That was a test.
Thank you. That was great.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thank you.
Trip.
Good night, everyone. Thanks, John.
Thanks,
Thank
you,
Trev.
Thank you, everybody.
Plan.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mark, too.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All
Thanks, Barry.
righty. Yeah, I was